Happy Wednesday. Boxing Gossip Podcast number 77. We go live every Wednesday at 8:30 UK time. Many thanks for people to joining in. I can see a lot of the usual faces in the chat. Shout out to Matt Berry, long-term supporter. I can see Jam, Paul, Toss, Nick Kacken, Steve, Leon, MB, Jared, Fourpole, Luke. Thanks to everyone for joining and for supporting even before the podcast has begun. 21 people already hit the thumbs up button. Thank you, guys. This support is meaning that this will get out to a wider audience and mean that more people join us as we go live, which is what we want. If you are watching live or if you are watching after this has been uploaded on YouTube, please do hit that thumbs up button to support what we're doing here. We've got an action-packed show tonight, lots to discuss. We're going to start by talking about last week's boxing. Who else but the enigma, the charismatic enigma that is David Price. We're also going to talk about Miguel Cotto. We're going to talk about some of the news in the sport of boxing. Deontay Wilder wanting a 50-50 split, the return of Kell Brook, a few other bits and bobs, and then we'll look ahead to next week's boxing where we have Lomachenko versus Rigondeaux. We have James DeGale, Lee Selby, Daniel Dubois, Anthony Yard. We've got a super featherweight card that's generating some interest and lots of other bits. So really is a huge amount to discuss in the sport of boxing, which makes this even more fun to do. I've got Paul and Jet already on the panel. I've had Jay on. He's having a few connection issues, so we're trying to get that rectified before bringing him in. No sign of Irish Tom just yet, but the Irish Tom fan base, all three of you, can wait with us and be patient because he usually shows up fashionably late by about 15 minutes because he's too cool for school these days. Let's start by bringing in my good pal Paul. Paul, thanks for your time as ever tonight, mate. What did you watch the boxing last week?
Yeah, I'm struggling to remember. Who there was other than Pricey.
Yeah, well, it wasn't a vintage week last week. This week's certainly stronger. But you had David Price, and you also had the Miguel Cotto Saddam Ali fight.
Oh yeah. I saw both of them. Oh man, Pricey. He's like, I don't know. I don't think he'll ever change, will he? I don't think he'll ever change. He puts that jab out like it's kind of like he can't decide whether he really wants to put it out there or not. Like he just will not fucking commit to it. For me, Price looks like a scared fighter. Do you know that? He looks like a guy who has got real psychological issues from the KOs. You know, it's not a criticism of him. You know, none of us have ever fought at that level. None of us know what it's like to be hit by, certainly, if you look at Erkan Tepe, you know, a guy that's clearly steroided up to the gills, juiced up to his gills. But I do think that has had an effect on David Price. He even, you know, like this guy was this. I mean, look, the Price in the beginning when we all kind of thought that he might be something a bit special. Yeah, I feel he would have. That version of David Price, I think, would have taken care of this Sokolovsky quite handily, quite easily. He didn't seem to want to go for it at all. Didn't look comfortable when Sokolovsky put it on him. The size difference was, you know, ridiculous, very, very evident, and yet he still seemed. He seems like a guy that is psychologically damaged by his knockouts and is very, very concerned about getting knocked out again all the time. And I think that seems to be having an effect on what he's doing in the ring.
It's crazy, though, with David Price. You know, I do a video on David Price and it gets lots of views. You know, I do a video on some truly elite level fighters. It gets hardly any views. You know, Price remains a huge draw. I don't know if it's that Olympic background. It's probably due to the fact that people like watching him because you know that he can get knocked out at any second. Do you think he'll get a big fight before he leaves the sport, Paul?
Tom, am I turned up as much as I can? Because I've just noticed in the chat a few people are complaining about my level. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, I must admit, you're coming through quite loud and clear, my end, Paul. I did see that. I can't turn you up anymore, and it's actually coming through quite loud, my end. Jet, give us a second opinion, mate.
Sounds all right, mate.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I mean, I'm right next to the iPad and I'm turned right up. So, my apologies to anybody that can't really hear properly. Sorry, what was the question, Tom?
So I was just saying, David Price remains quite a big draw, bizarrely, but that is the sport of boxing. Do you think he'll get a big fight before he leaves the sport?
Yeah, he might do. I mean, like, you know, he's a bit of a name as far as UK guys go. I can see him turning into a bit of a sort of like UK sort of journeyman, sort of like a gatekeeper, like some of the younger guys coming up. You know, get the David Price scalp. You know, somebody like Dubois or whatever. That's what that's the way I envision him going. I don't see him getting big fights. I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know if he's as popular as he would need to be to get, like, I don't know what you mean by a big fight. I mean, like an AJ fight or something like that. I very much doubt. Very much doubt. I think that ship sailed when it comes to David Price, to be completely honest.
Yeah. Very, very possibly. But I suspect you're right that we will see him against the Joe Joyces and Daniel Dubois, and there's probably still some significant earning potential from there. Paul, let me ask you about Miguel Cotto versus Saddam Ali. What was your take on that matchup? I must admit, I haven't actually watched the fight in full.
Yeah, well, I saw it. I wasn't as surprised as some people. I mean, I did say last week that I thought Saddam Ali is a good fighter. On this night, he's a good fighter. I think a couple of people said he wasn't, but I thought he was excellent, Saddam Ali. I'm not going to lie. I didn't expect him to beat Cotto, but you know, I think that's a career best performance from him, and it was a decent enough fight. Cotto's hanging him up at the right time for me.
Yeah, I think that's the consensus. I mean, do you have any real interest in seeing Miguel Cotto in further fights, or as you say, is it very much end of the road time now?
No, I think it's pretty much end of the road time. He didn't look like the same Miguel Cotto. I mean, like, I was a fan of Miguel Cotto in his early days. You know, that Miguel Cotto's kind of long gone for me, and you know, it's happened a few times recently where, you know, fighters have looked okay up until a certain point, and then they just seem to go downhill really quickly. I thought he had depreciated quite a lot. And fair play to him. He's had a great career. He's, you know, Hall of Famer, I would say, and he's, you know, he's leaving the sport with his brain intact and a few quid. So, best of luck to him, man. I think that's probably it for him.
Fair play. Now, Paul, you mentioned just before we went live that we've a bit more of a cameo from yourself tonight because other things going on in life, which is, of course, to be expected. With that in mind, I'm going to fast forward and talk to you about next week's boxing. We will continue the normal script with the other panelists, but just want to make sure we get some of Paul's wisdom with relation to next week's boxing. So, a vintage week of boxing, Paul. Which fight are you most looking forward to?
Oh wow, man! I mean, like, there is only one fight for me. The weekend. That's Lomachenko Rigondeaux. I'm so fucking excited for this fight. It's ridiculous. I mean, when can, I mean, it's never happened before. I don't think two double Olympic gold medalists in the ring at the same time. I think it's probably the best fight that can be made on paper. In boxing at the moment, I don't think there's a better fight. Whether it will live up to that, I don't know. I've said it before. I see Lomachenko as I see Lomachenko as a substantial favourite. I think Rigondeaux, you know, he's a smaller man. He's the older man. He's more inactive. I don't think he throws enough punches to win on the cards. I very much doubt he will have enough power to knock Lomachenko out. And, you know, I was thinking about this. People are making a bit of a big deal about the reach thing. And, I was thinking about it as, you know, I don't think, look, it's going to make some sort of difference. It's going to have some sort of, effect. But I don't think it's as big of a deal as it could be if, say, Rigo was sort of like a come forward fighter, an aggressive fighter. Because if you think about it, for him, like, Lomachenko's got to get in range before Rigo's going to be throwing. So I think that negates a lot of advantage that you know, maybe the jab, the reach advantage might help him with a little bit, but you know, like a fight like this, I think a guy like Lomachenko who's just going to come in at angles, he's going to be sidestepping around, his footwork's incredible. I think the reach advantage is going to be negated by just the style matchup. In a big way, and so I think it's a great fight. I think it's a fantastic fight. I think you know, if you're a Rigo fan, you probably wish this had happened 3 years ago, 3 years ago. At this stage, I really don't see anything other than Lomachenko win, but I think it probably will be competitive for a bit. But I just think there's too much stacked against Rigondeaux in this one. Just too much.
Paul, is that you know, if I push you a bit, are you inclined to go points to KO in Lomachenko's favour?
I think he'll stop him.
Interesting.
Stop him. Rigondeaux. I mean, if anybody remembers Rigondeaux, when Rigondeaux first came into the pros, there was a big narrative around Rigondeaux that he'd never been down in the amateurs. A lot of people like disputed it and stuff. But like, I can remember it might have been the Cordoba fight. It may be that fight, maybe another fight, where the commentators were talking about the fact that Rigondeaux had never been down, and then about a second later he was dropped. And you know, subsequently he's been dropped a few times, hasn't he? You know, Amagasa dropped him, Nonito Donaire dropped him, which is as far as I'm concerned not Nonito Donaire at his best. Nonito Donaire was past his best at that point for me, and was better at the lower weight class anyway. Amagasa, you know, just considerably bigger. I think Lomachenko just represents. You know, people think Lomachenko hasn't got power, and like, he's not a big puncher. He's not. But I mean, ask Rocky Martinez if he's got any power. He pretty much knocked Rocky Martinez out cold. I know Rocky Martinez has been knocked out by other people, but I think if you look at Rigondeaux and look at the amount of times he's been dropped and the size difference, I think probably the most likely outcome here is a Lomachenko win. By stoppage, so I'm gonna go for the stoppage win. That's my pick.
I hear you, Paul. I appreciate it, mate. Thank you very much for that. I'll move it on, but thanks for your early prediction there. We're gonna park Lomachenko Rigondeaux for now. We'll come back to that later in the show. As mentioned, Paul is going to have to jump off, so I just wanted to get his prediction in for that fight, not nice and early. But we've got one going Lomachenko by knockout. Let me bring in Jay. We were having a few sound problems with Jay, so Jay, do you want to give us a sound check,
Can you
mate?
hear me?
Let me turn you up.
How's that?
It sounds okay for now. Let's get it started.
Let's go with my phone, so we'll go with it.
You're through your phone, are you?
Yeah, so we'll try.
Cool. Irish Tom is accusing you, by the way, of using sound effects, so that you're going to have to jump off before it comes to a Lomachenko. Rigondeaux. He says you're ducking. Jay, let's start with last week's boxing. What did you make of the fights, in particular, Cotto or David Price, whichever one you're most passionate about?
I think I'll start with the Cotto fight. To be honest, you know, what we saw Saturday was just, it was a shell of Cotto, wasn't it? It was a times caught up with him. You know, he's been in some good fights over the years. I think there's probably mixed opinions about Cotto's career and whether, you know, he was as good as some people make out he was. Who he's fought, he's been in with some. One thing you can say, he's been in with some of the best fighters of the generation, really. You know, Canelo, Mayweather. You know, but he hasn't had a good performance in quite a few years. Ali did well, but let's not forget, Ali's not. He's not great. He's not a great champion. I think when he faces the other champions, he'll get found out quite quickly because he's not. You know, he hurt Cotto, but Cotto was just. He's an old man. He's an old man, and he's lived for quite a few years off his name and a ticket seller and an aura around him of being this fantastic fighter. Very tough, but you know, not a legend in my eyes. I think Ali, you know, did well. You know, he won the fight fair and square. Maybe they didn't think he was going to win the fight, and this was going to be a great swan song for Cotto. Obviously, that's why they took it, but to hang them up, and I don't think Ali beats any of the other champions, to be honest. Who he'll fight next, I would imagine he'll look for quite an easy defence. I don't think he'll go crazy. So, you know, I know Eddie Hearn's possibly talking Kell Brook to step up for this one. He's an opportunity there to get another belt for Kell Brook. Liam Smith, obviously, but as far as like Charlo, for instance, you know, it's not. You know, I don't think that will happen.
Yeah. Saddam Ali potentially going to be viewed as an easy mark at this point. Whether that will be true or not will be proved in time, I guess. Jay, did you watch the big man, the big horrible heavyweight, make his return?
It's just, yeah, I don't know. I mean, we talked about it a few weeks ago about him. I know you talked about it, about him really only potentially now reaching British level, possibly European level. It's not there, is it? It's gone. The time has gone. Those losses affected him badly. And I don't, even though a fighter will say they got over the loss, I don't think it's there. He's ponderous. He's slow. There's no real snap, I don't think. And as soon as he steps up again, you're going to see the same result, unfortunately. But I think maybe he might be thinking, well, let's just get a big fight and try and cash out or something. Maybe he will get to fight, you know, Fury for a Fury warm-up, you know, but it's not there. Fight some bums, beat some bums, step up to the big boys, and then get found out once again.
Yeah. Do you think he's possibly in the game to make a few quid now? Do you think he can maybe line up a few big money fights at sort of British Commonwealth level before exiting the game?
Well, you've got to ask the reason why he's come back. Why has he come back? He's asked himself that, and that answer is, I would imagine, is quite simple. The fact of the matter is, there's a lot of British heavyweights around with names that can generate some half decent cash. So I think that must be the reason. I can't believe he honestly sits there and says to himself, "I'm going to be world champion." And now I'm back, and you know, we've heard it so many times, and from many different fighters. I just don't think it's just not there. It's not there. You know, we do hear. I mean, in that Tyson Fury interview, he said, I think it was in that interview that he said that David Price is one of the hardest, if not the hardest puncher in the heavyweight division. Possibly so, but that's one thing. But we also know, you know, if you watch those fights when it comes to round 5 and he's dead on his feet, I mean, you never see that really from boxers. That, you know, it's incredible. Within 2 rounds, he's lost all his energy. You can't gain that back. That's not coming back. Make up things saying, well, he was too heavy or he's too thin, or, you know, it's just not there, is it? And I think, as you said, he's looking for that one last, try and get as far as he can. But this is it, you know. So a Dave Allen, you know, whoever it may be, maybe even like crazily, like they'll set up like a Dillian White fight or something, you know, or a Tyson Fury, and just get that money and then give it up. Because it's the only opinion. I can't see people telling him, or maybe they are. I can't see him telling himself that he's going to be a world champion and he's going to dominate a division. I just don't see it. I just think sometimes they look at it and think, if I can just get there, if I can just, it's like a David Haye scenario. If he can just seal fight, you know, drag my way to it, get in the ring and make that dough. Maybe that's what he's thinking.
I hear you. Jay, the signal is a bit hit and miss, mate. I think we got the majority of that.
I'll keep it short.
Thank you for that. But
I'll keep them short from now.
I'll move it on. But yeah, it's workable. So thank you, mate. Let's go over and bring in the Oracle, Jet. Jet, you normally like talking about people who weigh as much as David Price's left leg. Did you watch the big man on IFL TV, mate?
Unfortunately, yes, I did.
Yeah, unfortunately is the right word, right? Anything to add?
I won't comment further.
I'm presuming you kind of agree with the sentiment that kind of an aggressive fighter and looking imminently beatable based on that.
Yeah, pretty much.
Cotto Ali, did you watch the fight yet?
I saw some of the highlights. I didn't really watch the whole fight. I didn't want to hurt my eyes too much by watching that.
What's your take on Ali's position? Is he, as I say, I haven't actually got around to watching a full fight yet. Is he a position where he may be an easy mark for somebody like a Kell Brook or a Liam Smith, or did he show a real improved form and could he prove to be stiff competition?
I mean, obviously that's a very, very faded version of Miguel Cotto. We all know that. But he did do some good things in there, Saddam Ali. He definitely adapted after, I think, was it round 7 or 8 or something like that? And he done fairly well in those rounds. I think the HBO commentary gave him every round after round 7, and he completely turned the fight around. But he definitely done, he showed an ability to adapt. He was getting hurt by Cotto, and obviously he did hurt Cotto a few times himself. But yeah, he did fairly well. I do think, obviously, the top guys at 154, your Charlos, your Jarrett Hurds, Lara's, those guys, if they're looking to unify Saddam Ali, he's a potential opponent and he's an easier fight than the other top guys at 154. I think Liam Smith is actually supposed to be the mandatory, if I'm correct. But if he goes into that fight, obviously Saddam Ali is there to be hurt. He's not the biggest light middleweight, and obviously Beefy's kind of obviously he's a full blown super welterweight even. And Kell Brook, obviously, I've been hearing rumors that he may be facing Sam Egginton in his next fight. Obviously, they're both moving to 154. But if he gets a couple of good wins under his belt, and Saddam Ali's still champion, that's a good fight for Kell Brook as well. That's a winnable fight for Kell Brook at 154.
Yeah, definitely. And we will be discussing the return of Kell Brook in the news section. Jet, I'm going to move it on, mate, because I want to spend the majority of the time on the latter stages of this podcast. I think next week's boxing is probably more interesting in last week's boxing. But I'll bring you back in a minute. Let's bring in the one and only Irish Tom. Tom, how's things?
Not too bad. Can you hear me?
Yeah, a little bit quiet, but no. My sound is a bit low, my volume. So I'm sure you're coming through loud and clear, mate. Which ones of the fights did you check out last week, pal?
I saw the Price fight. Hasn't been the same since he got knocked out in one round against Monty Barrett. And then Michael Grant and Mike Perez and Marius Fock all iced him. So he's a damaged goods, is David Price.
Are you thinking of the right guy?
Yeah, he's like 6'8", isn't he? With a dodgy chin.
That's right.
Ever since Monty Barrett
he didn't get
took his own.
All those people though. He didn't fight all those people.
Yeah, no, he did. Yeah, he got iced. Yeah, Iced by Monty Barrett.
I presume we lack the intellect to see the subtle.
Oh no, wait.
Joke.
No, wait. Sorry. That's Ty Fields I'm thinking of. That's Ty Fields. But it's good. It's good to see that email that Gossip sent around to us. You know, it was the first topic to discuss was David Price, and then the second topic was the retirement of the Hall of Famer in a big shock fight. So,
mate, you know me, I'm a ratings whore, and David Price is ratings gold dust.
Oh my God, there's such a fascination with David Price by British boxing fans. It's fucking absurd.
It's weird though, mate. I looked at my phone on Twitter, and like Twitter was going mental. Like IFL TV, I haven't looked at it, but after their live stream, I saw that they had 120,000 viewers. You know, he is a big draw in British boxing, as bizarre as that sounds.
I know, but it's kind of like Paul Gascoigne managing like some Chinese football team. That's what David Price is now. Like, I don't know, but I watched it, but because I'm a loser, that's why. But it was like I actually gave it to. I give all the rounds to him. I gave it 6-0. I don't have any problems with the referee giving him 6-0. I thought he actually looked a little bit better than he has in the past. I know some people were slagging him. I didn't think his jab was that bad. I've seen his jab being a lot worse than that. Look dissembled sometimes when he turns the wrong way and goes around, but I didn't even think he was that badly gassed for David Price after 6 rounds. So, like, you know, but I don't expect any more from him. But you know, he's such, you know, he's the British Ty Fields. That's who he is. He's the British Ty Fields. He just gets absolutely destroyed when he steps up to top 30 level. You know, and that's all he is.
Yeah.
That's all he'll ever be.
Fair enough. You did allude to the fact that we had the retirement of a legend. Did you watch the Cotto fight, Tom?
I've downloaded it as a torrent, and just yesterday I got my hands on it, and I haven't got to see it, only the highlights. So there's me slagging you guys off, but I haven't seen the Cotto fight, so I can't say it on it.
Your commentary, you sat through the Price fight, but didn't see the retirement of the legend.
Oh, it's not in the middle of the fucking night, you know. These American cards, if you don't catch them the next day, you know.
Yeah. Anything to say about Miguel Cotto as he exits the sport, Tom?
Cotto is, I think he's an overrated fighter. Like I don't know what his signature win is. Against the past at Shane Mosley, you know, like a 7-5 decision against the past of Shane Mosley. You know, and that kind of puts him into context. He's been a good fighter. He was exciting at 140. Reasonably, well, you know, he didn't even fight the top guys at 140. He lost against all the guys when he stepped up. He had quite an exciting style, though. And, you know, if there's a man out there who can carry off a pink shirt better than Cotto, there's one guy you're not going to go up and slag and call him like some kind of a homophobic slur for wearing a pink shirt because he likes you.
Yeah, I don't think I'd say anything to Miguel Cotto, even after his retirement. Okay, Tom, cool. I know you're just warming up. I know you're going to want to get into the meatier discussion as we go through the pod onto next week's boxing. So I'll move it on at a pace so we can get to the promised land of Lomachenko, Rigondeaux faster. So thank you for that. Just under 100 of you watching live. If you are watching live, please smash the thumbs up button, which will mean that even more people hopefully join us as we're going through live. So a few news topics for us to discuss tonight. The first one I wanted to raise was Deontay Wilder versus Anthony Joshua. Deontay Wilder has said it's a 50-50 fight or else the fight doesn't happen, a 50-50 split. This news has created a good bit of interest in the boxing community, actually, and it seems for the first time the weight of public opinion may be starting to question Deontay Wilder because the average person perceives his value to be a lot less than 50-50. Now, there's certain fans out there, and I know Irish Tom is probably one of them, who don't like talking about splits. But for me, if we don't talk about splits, then we don't talk about why the fights aren't happening. And I think that's a key component of the sport. Let me bring in Paul, because I can see he's still with us. Paul, what's your take on these demands from Wilder? Can you make a case that 50-50 is fair?
No, absolutely not. And more than that, I'm going to just call it a duck. Let's just call it what it is. If he's serious, this is a duck. Look, AJ's got 3 belts. Wilder's got 1. Wilder doesn't even sell out in Alabama, where he comes from. AJ sells out 90,000 seats in a stadium. Yeah, we can argue to a blue in the face about the size of the US market versus the size of the UK market or whatever. All of that stuff's irrelevant. I can't see. I mean, he even said in that interview, the interview that he said that, and he said, it's not like I'm asking for more. I'm just asking for half, for 50%, for 50-50. It's not like I'm asking for more, or something like words I'm paraphrasing there. What a fucking ridiculous thing to say. What makes him think that he could possibly be in a position to ask for more? AJ's had better wins. He's got a better resume. He's got more bouts. He's commercially worth considerable amount more. I just don't know what fucking planet this guy's on. I don't know whether his ego is just running away with him, whether he is, I don't know, worried that if he was to lose that fight, that his career could wind down quite rapidly. And he just wants to get the biggest amount out of this deal he possibly can. I don't know what's going through his mind, but if he sticks to his guns on this, this is a duck for me, because there's no way on this earth an argument can be made for him being worth 50%.
Yeah, I mean, I'd agree, Paul. There's no way you can make an argument he's worth 50%. And I mean, Joshua not only brings the commercials, he also brings more belts to the table. I mean, in Wilder's defense, one thing I could say is that maybe it's a negotiation technique. Maybe he's asking for 50, hoping to get 40. But if he sticks to his guns on 50%, it is crazy. And look, I know people say Wilder isn't making a lot of money. He's making $1 million or $2 million a fight. And $1 million and $2 million isn't a lot of money in the context of an Anthony Joshua fight. But $1 million and $2 million is a lot of money in the context of day-to-day life. And maybe Deontay Wilder is very, very happy picking up $1 million paychecks 3 times a year, looking devastating, not having to take any punishment. And maybe he will only take a fight like that when it's cash out time. I don't know, but it's very, very, very disappointing. And, as much as people don't like talking about splits, if you're going to be talking about ducking, if you're going to be talking about fights not happening, it's certainly an angle to consider. So I think you nailed on there, Paul. I
mean, the thing is, only a few weeks ago, he was talking about this and he was saying it's not about money, it's about legacy. This money's not important. Don't start talking. Even on that TBV podcast, he was saying, like, don't start talking about numbers. It's not about money, blah, blah, blah. And now all of a sudden this. I mean, this is absolutely ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. I actually think that Joseph Parker is a better fight. I think Joseph Parker has a better resume already. If you consider that Joseph Parker's beaten Carlos Takam, he's beaten Andy Ruiz, he's beaten Yuri Fury, I think all 3 of those opponents represent better wins than Bermane Stiverne, the ghost of Bermane Stiverne, and a sort of like tough, pretty durable Bermane Stiverne in the first fight. And even Joseph Parker's only asking for 35%. What on earth makes this guy think he's worth 50-50? I've just got no idea. Yeah. I'd love somebody to make the argument. I'd love to hear how somebody makes that argument.
Who here thinks that Deontay Wilder is not as big, is a smaller name than Joseph Parker?
None of us.
No.
Okay, he's a bigger name than Joseph Parker.
Well, he's a bigger name than Joseph Parker in America, or probably globally.
Which is the biggest market of all.
Joseph Parker's probably a bigger name in like Australia and New Zealand and stuff. But yeah, you're right.
So the combined populations of Australia and New Zealand is probably less than 10% of the US audience.
Yeah.
So he's a much bigger name.
So
Now, every fighter out there, they negotiate in public. Not every, most of them negotiate in public. Just like Parker said he wanted 40. If Parker started on 40 and he'll end up with 33, what's wrong with Wilder, who's a much bigger name in a bigger market, who can bring more money to it, asking for 50 and ending up with 40? Same thing. I just don't understand why people lose their shit about it.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that if that's what he's doing. What I'm saying is if he sticks to his guns and says, well, unless it's 50-50, the fight doesn't happen, then I'm saying it's a duck. If he comes down to 40-35, fine. If he sticks to 50, that's a duck, because there's no way he's worth it.
But it's just people negotiating in public, And the thing is, I just cannot agree with you, Paul, that the Wilder fight is not as good a fight as Parker. For me, Wilder is by far the better fight. I think Wilder is a much better fighter than Joseph Parker. I think the resumes between Joseph Parker and Wilder are equivalent.
Oh, I don't.
Yeah.
Look,
my take is that I think they are. They are similar resumes. I think Paul's probably right that Parker's is stronger. I agree with you that Wilder is probably the better fighter than Parker. He gives the visual impression of being slightly better, substantially better. But my concern is Parker, we know, is very, very, very solid. Whereas Wilder, he's a huge puncher, but there's kind of that vulnerability. It wouldn't surprise me if the Wilder fight is over in a round, whereas the Parker fight could actually turn out to be a better fight. Do you get me?
Yeah, well, we've no idea about that because Parker has never fought anybody who can punch. Andy Ruiz has only one fight on his record, bar of any note, and that's Joseph Parker, right? Andy Ruiz has got no resume, and we've got he looked poor against Kajanu. And he scraped past Takam, who Anthony Joshua schooled. Now, if you go and look at, say, when Wilder fought most of his guys, now he may have given away rounds, but he sparred these guys, And Wilder, to me, is a devastating puncher. And he's got, like, him and Joshua is a very close fight. Some people think Wilder, probably most people think Joshua, but most people don't give it more than 60-40 either way. While Parker is, I think a fair price for Parker is 3-1 underdog. So I just want to see the best fights made. I wouldn't be surprised. It looks obvious to me that the AJ camp want to pick Parker first because he's the easier fight and he can make good money on him. And Wilder is just saying shit in the media to keep the fight live. That's all it looks like to me. I just don't see why we would spend a half an hour talking about when we got Lomachenko versus Rigondeaux.
Well, I think it's probably the biggest fight in world boxing, and people are, buzzing to see it and hoping that it happens. So I think when you have a big news topic that kind of implies that the fight isn't going to happen, and when one of the fighters is giving a big indicator that it's not going to happen, which kind of is given from what Wilder said, and I think it's something that people want to hear us discuss. But that's just my take.
But wait a second here. Which fighter are we saying is showing that he doesn't want to fight? Who's aggressively called him out?
I agree with your sentiment that Wilder is probably asking 50%, hoping to get 40%. But if he does stick to his guns, like Paul says, then it's essentially creating a situation where he isn't going to get the fight.
If he was an idiot, he wouldn't get it. But, it's likely just negotiating tactics. Either negotiating tactics or he's an idiot, Let's get it straight because he's not the A side. But, that's just the way I look at it. And let's be clear about this one. From my point of view, it's the AJ team who don't want that fight. More so than Wilder. I don't think Wilder is trying to duck. I think AJ's team, not AJ's team are putting that fight on the long finger. Because they don't want that fight now because it's a risk to King AJ. And it is a very big risk. It's the biggest risk in the division, bar Tyson Fury if he's ever any good again.
And what do you base that opinion on, or is it more of an instinct thing?
Well, look at when Eddie Hearn wants to make a fight. Here's what he'll do. He'll say, you know, we're looking at 3 guys: this guy, that guy, and the other guy. And then somebody will say, and what about this other one? And he'll say, oh yeah, we'll consider that too. And that's always the way it is with Wilder. It's always like Parker and somebody else, and then, well, Wilder too. We were also Wilder. It's plainly obvious in all his answering. And also when he was done the boxing voice thing, and he made up every excuse for why he can't make the fight, like he didn't know who to call, even though he'd been in contact and discussing that fight already. Obviously, wanting to put that one on the back burner. That's just fucking obvious, plain to me. And we're going to get Joseph Parker first. The Wilder fight was never going to be first. We'll see what happens. Like a 65. Look, AJ is the A side against all of these fighters. The only one you might say he's not an A side is Tyson Fury, but he'll still be the A side probably in that fight. Maybe David Haye, I don't know. But I think AJ's the A side, not against all of them. But they're all going to be chatting shit. Banged.
There we go. Jay, Jet, any comments to add on this topic about the splits and about these fights?
I think that sorry, go on, Jet.
Oh no, I was just gonna say fuck Wilder, man.
Brilliant. I think Wilder knows that that AJ needs Wilder. He needs Wilder. He needs Fury. He needs these fighters. He knows that, and he'll sit and wait for the money to be right. There's only so long that Joshua can fight. People, fighters that are not the other champions. You can't say you're going to unify a division and not do it. Same with Wilder. Same Parker. So Wilder knows Joshua needs him, and he needs Joshua. So eventually they've got to happen. But Wilder is going to throw up his biggest price he possibly can, and he'll weigh it out as long as he can to get the best deal he can possibly get. He may not get 50%, but he'll get good close to it.
Can I just say,
even if he's not worth it?
I totally disagree with that. I mean, I do think they need each other, but I think Wilder needs AJ far more.
But Paul, why doesn't AJ need Wilder? What is he going to fight? Pulev, and then who's he going to fight?
Well, I think he does to a degree, but I mean, there's Tyson Fury, there's Parker, there's if AJ was to fight Parker and win another bout, and he's got all the bouts bar one, who really needs who then? I think AJ can sit on a situation like that for a lot longer than Wilder can, because Wilder's older as well. Don't forget that.
I agree. But Eddie Hearn's coming out saying Wilder, Fury, Parker. He knows those 3 fights make mega money because it's Wilder, because it's Parker, and because it's Fury.
I'm not sure I agree. I'm not sure I agree.
He can stay at the top without fighting those guys. Simple.
If anyone making $20 million a fight or £20 million a fight, fighting the Pulev and Takam.
Yeah.
And the other.
Yeah, I understand that gossip, but the issue is what I'm saying is they're mega fights. Wilder is a mega fight. And they want to be involved in mega fights. That's where ego comes in. And that's why they want to be involved in those fights. Not Eastern European fighters that they're going to pull over. He can do that, and he can fill it. He can do that, and he can fill stadiums. But at the end of the day, he wants those mega. Go to Nigeria, go to Dubai. You go to Nigeria with Wilder. Do you imagine how big that fight is worldwide? It's huge. It's bigger than any of his fights.
The thing I take, though, is AJ is still a young man. He can have the mega fights in 4 or 5 years. And my feeling is, I understand these are mega fights, but if AJ is getting 55% of the purse against Wilder, I'm not even sure that represents more money than getting 80% of the purse against Dillian White.
You're right, Gossip, but at a certain time, he's still a boxer. He's still a sportsman. He still wants to fight the best, regardless of what people say about ducking and things like that. There's still got to be, once you've made the money, what are you doing then? you make so much money. Then it's about legacy. Then it's about winning belts. And if he hangs around 3 or 4 years, Wilder may not be on top anymore. Fury might be out of the game. Who's he going to look at then? Who's coming up to take those places, to make those mega fights?
I mean,
I think they're very greedy.
I mean, I agree that ego usually plays quite a big part in these things. But the thing is, if Wilder was to sit on this 50-50 thing and not budge on it, I think AJ could quite easily just sit and go, he's ducking, he's unrealistic. I'll just sit and make 15 million for the next 3 or 4 fights or whatever and fight other people. And I don't think anybody, other than Wilder fanboys would say he was ducking Wilder. So
no, but I don't. But what I'm saying, Paul, is he's not necessarily ducking him, and he probably won't wait that long. But he's got to throw out a big figure. Throw out a big figure, and let's see what we can do. Yeah. We possibly can to it. He probably does. He probably knows that's not realistic. But he throws it out there publicly, to say, oh, I'm this. But at the end of the day, they come along and say, well, we'll give you 37.5%. He'll snap his hands off.
Yeah, I hope you guys are right, because I'd really love to see this fight. I just, I don't know if somebody like Wilder isn't just, like, he comes across to me as a guy that's a little bit drunk on his own sort of like hype, the sort of like the KO percentage, and I'm the most feared man in the planet, and this, that, and the other. I don't know if it's not just ego. I hope you're right. I really do, but I don't know if it's not. That's
selling himself. That's making the best money he can out of himself. Every fight does it. And if they can get Klitschko into a ring and fight Klitschko, be an issue getting Wilder, Parker, or Fury into a ring. I really can't.
I mean, I think the Klitschko fight was close to 50-50, but Klitschko brought far more to the table than Wilder.
I understand that. And as I said, it won't be 50-50. It won't be close to it. But he'll get as much as he possibly can. He's a businessman. He has to make money. This is exactly what he's going to do. He's not going to go over and go, yeah, okay, I'll take 20% because I want to win the belt.
I hear you.
To get well paid for it.
Essentially, the debate circles around, is Wilder posturing as a negotiation technique, or is this a legit statement? And I guess we can have our opinions on that, but we'll find out in the oncoming months, I guess, is the answer.
Yeah.
One thing
one thing I will say is he is making himself look like a bit of an idiot, because the way he's phrased it in this the way he's phrased it in this statement, it looks like 50-50 or the fight's not happening. As soon as he backtracks, he is going to make himself look a bit of a twat, because people don't usually make as sort of like definite statements as that. They usually sort of like make slightly more non-committal statements and whatnot. He's fucking out and out said 50-50 or it does not happen. That's what makes me concerned.
But then Paul, we can turn around after that and say, well, actually, to me, it's not about the money, it's about the belt. So I'll go over there and I'll take a less cut because I'm a true warrior and all that bullshit. They'll just turn it round.
Yeah.
He's just turning it round. That's exactly what he'll do.
True.
I just like to say that it's great to see that Eddie Hearn is splashing the cash around here, giving Paul some money there, having fighting in the corner. Us fans coming out here and coming up with reasons why we don't want the best fight. I just think that's great.
I just said I wanted it. What, did he not offer you anything, Tom? Is that Eddie?
He didn't offer me anything because they know I'm incorruptible and I don't like the capitalist pig.
I bet you could be corrupted for about £2.50 IRS.
Well, around the bike shed, maybe, but not for boxing.
Right, moving on. Haye versus Bellew. The rematch of the century is back on. How's it going? Jet, how excited are you on a scale of 1 to 500?
501.
501. Do you think... I actually think this fight will happen. I don't think there'll be another pullout. I'm going to stick my neck out. You've heard it here. It's on record. Someone can record it and put it back out when David Haye inevitably pulls out with some sort of bizarre injury. But I'm pretty certain it's going to happen this time. What's your take on that, Jet?
War Jet.
You're the man, Irish. Yeah, I think it's going to happen. It makes them both the most amount of money. Tony Bellew's obviously put out a tweet saying that I'm going to end him and Tyson Fury, and the Haye Faker is first on May 5th. So the beef is going to continue, it seems. And we all know fake beef sells pay-per-views. So, yeah, it most likely is going to happen.
Good stuff. Is there anyone on the panel who thinks it's going to be a pullout?
Well, if it's not a pullout, I hope David Haye's wearing a condom.
There. Okay. Paul's got a suit off. Thanks, Paul. Appreciate you joining us tonight. It was good to have you on board. Jay, anything to add on Bellew Haye, mate?
I think it's a joke. I think when Irish says about capitalist pig Eddie Hearn, I totally agree with him on this one, because it's just a fucking piss take. Absolute piss take. It's so obvious that it's just a money fight, and it infuriates me. It infuriates me because it's gone on long and waiting. It's just a money fight, and it's bullshit. But I think it'll happen, because I think if David Haye was shot, I think he'd try and get in that ring, because he knows that this is the end.
Yeah, absolutely. But Jay, despite your cynicism, and I hear you, mate, will you be watching the fight? I bet you'll be buzzing for it when it actually comes around.
Of course I will. Of course I will. I'm a fucking mug, you know.
Yes. Okay, one more news story, and it's a bit of breaking news. It's been announced that Kell Brook will return in, I believe, March of next year in Sheffield, up at the light middleweight division. The Boxing Scene article that I saw recently reported it, said that most likely the return will be on Sky Sports box office. So look, we've talked about pay-per-view time and time again on this channel. Most recently when Pink Tyson made her pay-per-view debut under huge fanfare. Kell Brook pay-per-view coming off back-to-back losses. Even for me, that's a hard pill to swallow. Anyone got any take on which sort of comeback opponent that they'd like to see? And, you know, what's your reaction to this news?
This is the problem with pay-per-view. Once you're on pay-per-view, you've got to stay on pay-per-view. And that's the problem right there. Like Bellew now, he's on. This is why he's taking this Haye fight and another, you know, with the Tyson Fury, because he's got the taste of the pay-per-view money, and that's where he stays now. And that's a shame. And that's going to be the same. They've got to work to pull out a decent opponent for this, or do some real good publicity to hype possibly the underrated opponent that he's going to face.
Well,
yeah,
I reckon it'll probably be, hopefully it's the Frankie Gavin rematch, because that's a pay-per-view card we're looking for a repeat of.
Joking apart, it's going to be the egg. I'll put 154.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I was going to say it's actually a decent fight. It's not a decent fight. But it's certainly a not pay-per-view fight, my Christ. But, like, if he's going to put him on a pay-per-view, like, he's going to have to give him a name that's semi-respectable. Are they trying to line up Liam Smith?
Well, the egg is apparently who's being lined up, mate. I'm not joking.
Perhaps they'll have to stack the card then really heavy.
I saw that rumor, but I just presume that's people just making it up.
I have seen Eddie Hearn talk about that fight historically, and Eggington is definitely moving up to 154 after his last fight. So, you know, for me, it doesn't surprise me if that fight does happen. But surely, even Kell Brook at 75% cracks the egg.
Well, that's right. He'll beat that egg.
We'll have an omelette.
I'd like to see
easy
that.
work?
Definitely, mate. Definitely. Eggington's tough, but mate, he was getting hurt at times at 147. I know he was weight training a little bit, but you know, it should be light work for Kell Brook if he's anything of the fighter that we know.
Good stuff. Guys, I'm going to move it on. Does anyone have any further comments about the boxing from last week or about the news, or am I good to move it on to next week's boxing? I'll take that as a good to move it on to next week's boxing. We're up to 120 people watching live. Thanks to everyone who's joined. Please hit the thumbs up button if you haven't done so already. Many, many thanks to those who've already done it. Paul joined us in the first half of the show, for those who missed it and for those who weren't watching live at the time. Paul came out and predicted by knockout. Now, for those of you who have already taken the time to check out my pre-fight prediction video, which I uploaded on Monday, you will know that I have also gone Lomachenko, and if I'm supposed to pick a method of victory, I have also said Lomachenko by stoppage. So down out of 5, 2 Lomachenkos by stoppage. Let's go over to Jet. Jet, are you going to bring some sense to the equation? Give us your breakdown on this fight, mate.
I think they're both going to punch each other and it's going to be a double knockout.
War Jet.
War Jet.
No,
break it down.
No. Yeah, I think the fight, obviously, I've actually been asked about the fight, so it seems to have gathered a bit of momentum in terms of the casual market. I'd have to say that. So I've been asked by a few casuals, and they're asking me who I'm going with. I'm going to go with Lomachenko, probably by points. I don't think he's the biggest puncher. I know he's a handy puncher. You know, he's not a George Foreman type puncher or anything like that, but he's got some power. But what I think he will do is he'll give Rigo a lot of different angles. You know, a lot of work on the inside. It'd be interesting to see how the fight actually plays out, because Lomachenko in his last few fights, the guys haven't wanted to be pressing the action. If you look at Miguel Mariaga, that fight, Rocky Martinez, you know, Lomachenko kind of came forward, and he's not, I wouldn't say he's not known as a come forward guy, but he's you know, he has a lot of strings to his bow, and I'd say, you know, obviously from the amateur background, loads of people would say he would box in the back foot. So it'd be interesting to see if Rigo presses the action. If he does, maybe a stoppage is more likely. But I think Rigo being on the back foot, he'll be a bit elusive, probably a bit lighter as well. And, you know, I think he'll probably survive to the end. He'll definitely have his moments, because he's a masterful counterpuncher. Don't get me wrong. He's a fantastic, you know, counterpuncher at times. But I do think this, you know, as BG you would say normally, we have weight classes in boxing for a reason, and I think this is a prime example of there should be, you know, stick to your weight class. I know you're moving up 2 weight classes. He's going to make some good money and probably get some good exposure if you win, lose or draw. Rigondeaux, that is. But yeah, I just think the size difference. I know he has a freakishly long reach, but you know, I just think his output is slightly low. He's been inactive, and you know, he's very small in stature as well. So yeah, I'd expect Lomachenko to give him a lot of work on the inside, and you know, whether or not the stoppage comes depends how Rigo can keep it at range. I do think he can keep it at range enough in the fight to make it go the distance, but a stoppage isn't inconceivable in Lomachenko's favour.
Interesting. Do you see it being I know you said points was your prediction. Do you see it being a fairly clear points victory on the cards?
Yeah. You know, if Rigo threw more punches and he was more active in the rounds, I would say this is definitely a more competitive fight than people make it out to be. But I just think he's very low output in rounds, especially against, you know, top opposition as well. Or, you know, if you count his top opposition, it's probably Nonito Donaire. And yeah, I mean, it's difficult to put Rigo, it's difficult to really rate him at this stage in his career. Just, you know, you have to look back through all of his previous fights. He's a top fighter, but you know, it's difficult to rate him at the moment. But yeah, I'd assume Loma will probably win most of the rounds, probably like 9-3 or something like that.
Yeah, I have a further question. In my pre-fight prediction, I talked about some of the other factors involved in this fight as opposed to just the styles. One of them was age, one of them was activity, one of them was level of opposition. Now, Rigo's elite performance was in early 2013 against Nonito Donaire. And Paul speculated earlier on in this podcast that at that time Nonito Donaire was on the way down. But let's put that to the side for 1 second. Is it possible? Is it conceivable that Rigondeaux is actually pretty shot to pieces? Is it possible that he is no longer the fighter that he was against Nonito Donaire? Is it possible that the best of Rigondeaux left a year or two ago, if not further than that, but it hasn't been exposed because of the type of opposition he's been in with and because of the inactivity? I'm not saying that that's my opinion. I'm just asking the question. The consensus is that 37 years old would be very, very old indeed for a super bantamweight. Is that a realistic possibility going into this fight?
Yeah, you could say that, but on the flip side, playing devil's advocate, you could also say that Rigo hasn't been in any meaningful fights, and he hasn't taken any damage in the fights, or very little damage. He's got knocked down a few times, but the majority of the fights he's had, he's kept that range. He's won on the back foot. He hasn't really taken heavy punishment. So there's two sides to the coin on that. So it's difficult to say. We can only know on fight night, and maybe it's a question that we'll never be able to answer. There's potential with that also, because Rigondeaux's career has been very, very stop-start. So it's been a bit difficult to put tip your hat to. But yeah, I guess we'll wait and see come fight night. But there's definitely some attributes he brings to the fight that could make the fight. I wouldn't say competitive, but it will make it difficult to score rounds, and he'll definitely do some things there that Lomachenko's previous opponents wouldn't have done, and that's where the interest is.
I hear you, mate. Okay, thanks for that, Jay. Let's bring you in, mate. Give us your run through and prediction for this fight.
It's either going to be a really good fight or a really shit fight, depending. You've got two fighters, one a really good attacking, technically great, on top of his game fighter, another really good fighter defensively, technically, I think Lomachenko has to really go at him and really push the pace and try and keep a heavy pace for him. I think when you talk about the points that you made, I think they are big factors. The lack of decent opponents in his last three fights, lack of inactivity, age, stepping up a weight. Respect to him for taking the fight and going up to meet, because not many people would go and meet Lomachenko in the first place, let alone step up the weights. If you're looking at the facts of it, we've taking those things into account. I can't see him winning. Be shocked if he did, because he's a very, very good fighter, but I just don't think it will do it. I think it will be, it'll go to points, and I think in the end, Lomachenko will be quite up on a few rounds, to be honest. Early rounds, he might find it a little bit difficult. It just depends. The way that Lomachenko fights and the style that he fights is going to be difficult, obviously, for anyone. It's the pace thing that I would think he has to keep a real good pace. But as we know, very good counter puncher, very defensive fighter. But as Jet said, he's not really been hurt. He's pretty much cruised to his wins, apart from, I'm trying to think.
Salido?
Yes, the Japanese fella that he fought, Rigo.
Oh, sorry, Nagasa, yeah.
That was a tough fight for him. So it's really interesting. It's a fight I can't wait to see, a fight that I've been looking forward to seeing. But it could end up shit, because they might just cancel each other out, the way their styles. But I'm hoping it will be, Rigondeaux, this is the toughest fight he's had in a very long time. And he's really going to have to dig in and really take it, and we'll see what he's got left. Is he over the hill? Is it done for him, or is he that very special talent that we know he can be?
So
there's
is
a
it
lot of questions to be asked
for you, Jay?
Yeah, I don't think he can knock him out, but I think it'll go to point, and I think it will win by maybe 3 or 4 rounds.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Interesting. So 4 panelists down, 4 picking Lomachenko. Let's bring in Irish Tom. I think this is where we could potentially. Irish, let me let you out of the cage, mate. Off you go.
Ready to roar, gossip. Look, I think that Lomachenko will win too.
What?
Well, I think he won't. I don't think Rigo will get any decision. So, like, Rigo wins it 10 rounds to 2. It'll be a draw. So I think it's very hard for Rigo to win this fight unless he knocks him down. You know, I don't think he might knock him out, but he could knock him out, but he might have to knock him down a couple of times to get his decision and completely school him. So everything's against Rigo in this. But I think this is a hell of a close fight. I think of fighters that can go up and down the weights. Like a person like Floyd could go up and fight Canelo. Canelo's a much bigger man, and he schooled him. And similarly, Rigo is the type of fighter who could do that. He could do what Bernard Hopkins did when he jumped 2 weight divisions up to light heavy. So saying all that, I think Lomachenko is a very good fighter. But my heart says Rigo. Like, I think if there is a style to stop Lomachenko, it's Rigo's style. Because I think, I listened to Hatman's video during the week, and, his analysis is very good. I totally agree with it. Rigo is a devastating puncher when he wants to bother. And he basically is able to slow the pace and dictate the rhythm of the fight, because what he does is he basically hits them with a really hard backhand. Is Rigo southpaw? Anybody know?
Yes, he is.
So he's hitting them with his left hand. It's been a while since I've seen Rigo now. When he hits him with the left hand, that straight left hand that he hits with power is basically shuts the opposition down usually. So I think that he has the ability to totally stop Lomo coming in. Not saying he'll do it. I'm saying, before the fight, he's got the type of style to be able to stop Lomachenko being able to sit close in. Because really, Lomachenko is an inside fighter. He's much more of an inside fighter than an outside fighter. And he's got long arms. So his power can translate up the divisions, I think. I think this is the type of fight, not saying it's going to be the same type of fight, but this is much more like, I expect this fight to go much more like a kind of a Roberto Duran, Ray Leonard, the first fight. Was in a guy coming up essentially 2 divisions, it would be nowadays. Although he had a fight or 1 or 2 fights in between to climatize. He's coming up those divisions, and they're 2 elite guys. And to me, I see it like that. But I don't think Rigo will get any decision. I think he will get rolled. He's 37, and the other guy is, young, and he's supposed to be the future. So I think he'll get rolled. But, if Rigo gets bet 7-5 by Lomachenko, right? Let's just assume Rigo gets bet 7-5 Lomachenko. Should Rigo not go number 1 in pound for pound?
No, because he's been beat by Lomachenko.
Even if he gets bet 7-5, could go jumping up 2 weights against supposedly the number 1 fighter in the world.
Well, I don't have him as
the best
1 fighter in the world, but yeah.
A lot of people that you respect do. To me, if Rigo loses a close decision against Lomachenko, or he gets rolled, let's just say he loses a close decision, he should be much higher up than Lomachenko in the pound for pound.
I totally disagree, Tom. If Lomachenko beats Rigondeaux, Lomachenko is higher up than Rigondeaux on the pound for pound list. Iris, I'm going to read you out a few quotes from the chat. Mikey says, easy cop-out, Iris. If Rigo wins, you get credit. If Loma wins on points in a close one, you also get credit. Team Grove says, Iris wins either way. It's great. Iris takeover. MB says Irish swings both ways. HKC says swinging both ways. And they're not the only one. Oh, I've got to agree, Iris. All of this talk about people ducking, all of this talk about people not turning up to next week's pod, all of this talk about this being one of the times you're sticking your neck up on the line, and you've kind of gone for the favourite to win, Lomachenko, and you're kind of hinting at other factors and saying that, you know, I agree with you. Rigo might win a few rounds. Rigo's an awkward fighter who will take a while to adjust.
No, like I think, look, to me this thing has got, like, to me it's a kind of a simple fight to analyze, as in I'm not sure what's going to happen, but like if Lomachenko in the first 2 or 3 rounds is able to impose his style, he wins easy. Okay, I think that's a possibility. I think that's like maybe a 20% possibility, and then all the rest of it, like my heart, I'm going to pick Rigo for my heart. I think that you know, look, Rigo can win that fight and he won't get the decision. It's like Canelo with Golovkin. Look, and you guys think, oh, you know, some people think, oh, it was really smart to not pick Golovkin because I thought about what the judges would do. You know, but like it's kind of a bullshit. We should be picking on, you know, I do think we should be picking on not on what the judges will pick, but on what the consensus view is of a fight. And I think that Rigo has got a very good chance. And to me, this is like, remember, it's all stacked against Rigo in this fight. But I see this as a very close fight. Very, very close fight. Yeah, you know, another great fight. And I think, you know, most of the people on the panel have been picking, a lot of people have been picking Lomachenko to knock him out and to dominate him. And I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying it could even be the other way around.
What's your final prediction, Tom?
I think Lomachenko will win on points, and Rigo, there's a very good chance that it'll be a 50-50 fight and Rigo could get done. That's the way I see it going. But I know, like, most of you guys, I don't see it as a 50-50 fight. I see it as a very close fight.
I don't see it as 50-50, but the reason I don't see it as 50-50, I mean, I don't know if you watched my video, I actually said this would be a 50-50 fight if it were not for the factors against Rigondeaux. But, you know, the factors against Rigondeaux are so overwhelming that it's nowhere near a 50-50 fight for me. And I hear what you're saying, but I don't think you can analyse this fight without focusing on those factors because they are pretty insurmountable, in my opinion.
Sorry, can you do that again for 1 second? Sorry.
Can I say it again or can I hold?
Yeah, say it 1 second. Can you say it again?
Yeah. I said, I don't know if you watched my pre-fight video, but in that I said, if you take the other factors out of the fight, it is a 50-50 fight. But the factors against Rigo are so huge, you know, it's so against him here. Very one-sided in Loma's favour, mate.
But like, I don't think that the size is a big factor. You know, I could be very wrong on that, but I don't think so.
What about age?
You know, well, I don't think so. I think Rigo is, you know, look, people made this thing about Bernard Hopkins and stuff like that, and Floyd, oh, he's going to lose, he's getting old, and he never really did. You know, age didn't become a factor in it for these pure boxers. It's less of a factor when you've got a fighter who he's 37 or, you know, maybe 38 or whatever it's going to be, like, but he's going to be able to dictate the pace. If he's able to dictate the pace won't be a problem. You know, and I think there's a highly likely he'll be able to dictate the pace. He may be a smaller fighter, right? But he's got longer reach. And if you've got a guy with a good jab and a rapier backhand, you know, with longer arms, and Lomachenko has actually got quite small arms, you know, I think that, and Lomachenko is not a big puncher. I don't care what people say. He's a grind of guy down. He's only got one kind of signature knockout win on his record that I can think of at a decent level, and that's Rocky Martinez, and he's shot. So he's not a big puncher. If I'd say if you put them both on the punching machine, I'd say Rigondeaux. Well, it's hard to know because he might just be very accurate, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's the bigger puncher than Lomachenko. Actually, I'd be surprised if he wasn't the bigger puncher than Lomachenko. So I think. Do you have any
concerns about Rigondeaux getting stopped? Because you might have to say that Lomachenko is probably a bigger puncher than Amagasa, and Amagasa had him down.
Amagasa had him down. But like, what does that mean? You're the very person who makes that argument about Tyson Fury, that he got up and he was grand when he got up. And it's exactly the same with Rigondeaux. You know, so we should be consistent in what we say about people. Rigondeaux hasn't got a bad chin. He's never been hurt. He's never been in a fight where you go, oh, fuck, he's done. Or he looks wobbly here. He's been knocked down, usually glancing blows, blah, blah, blah. But you look at the other guy's face and what he's done to the other guys in those very same fights. You know, and it's, you know, Floyd, you know, people don't, you know, Floyd got knocked down against Zab Judah, but it wasn't like he was busted up or anything.
Yes,
and similar type of ones.
And I do say that about Tyson Fury. You're right, but I think the difference here is you're factoring that dynamic in with multiple jumps in weight class, and obviously that was never going to be applicable for Fury given the division he competes in. So, yeah, for me, that is a concern going classes and output. The guy with the size, it kind of all comes together to be a big concern, and then, you know, that's without even referring to any sort of judging or anything like that may or may not be a factor. We'll have to see. But
look at your man. Look at what Lomachenko did to Gary Russell Jr., for example. Did he ever look like he was going to stop him? Did he drop him? I don't think he dropped him. You know, I don't see why people think Lomachenko's this big hitter, because he's not a big hitter. He's an accumulating puncher, and he's able to tire fellas out mentally because they're not able to. He's able to impose his style, and he's got some new boxing tricks in the bag. Every few years, a fighter will come along with a new trick, and the fighters he's up against haven't been exposed to it, aren't able to train to it. The other people, they aren't able to get sparring to emulate it. So when they go in there and they got to deal with this new trick, they get done. Now, that's what Lomachenko's big advantage is for me. He's got these new tricks and a new slightly variance on the inside, and his inside fighting style is different than the norm. You know, once young fighters start emulating and copying him, you know, that advantage, you know, in a few years' time will be largely reduced. And so that's his advantage at the moment. He's also very good, but that's his big advantage. Now, is Loma the man to be able to keep him on the outside? I think yes. If he's able to keep him on the outside, I think he wins. I think Rigondeaux wins, at least, you know, should win, barring the judges. And I think that's a highly likely outcome. But
I think safe prediction, Tom. I think you're going to be, unless Lomachenko absolutely ices Rigo, and he's not the biggest puncher as you say, I think you're going to be claiming every other outcome as a win.
Oh, look, I'm saying Lomachenko could, say, for example, I'm saying there's a 20% chance Lomachenko could dominate him, could be able to impose his style. But I'm saying now, if that happens, because I'm saying I don't think that will happen. That fair play to him. But I don't think that. I think it's going to be able to keep him on the outside and probably get road. And even, you know, if he goes up 2 weight divisions against one of the best fighters in the world and gets rolled or slightly, you know, it's an amazing result. Look what happened to Kell Brook when he tried to go up against, you know, the A guy in the middleweight division, jump 2, broken and knocked down and out, but he got stopped in 5 rounds. Like, this is not that. This is not Kell Brook versus Golovkin.
No, it's not that. Rigondeaux's better than Kell Brook, and Lomachenko, you know, is not a sort of devastating knockout artist like Golovkin is. You know, it's
remember the odds for that fight were 5-1. Kell Brook, 4-1, right? Now, but those odds, the odds are saying it's the same fight, but you know, it's not. To me, it's like it's a very, very close fight. I'm just looking forward to it. And Jay, what did Jay say would happen? What's his determination? Was it a knockout?
Jay was the same as you. Lomachenko points.
I don't think anyone said that he's going to knock him out.
I think he
I don't think many people do think Lomachenko's a big puncher, because I don't think he is. Maybe at the weight difference he might make a difference, but you know, Rigondeaux's got a really good chin. Rigondeaux's got a really good chin. Really good chin.
I think on balance, I think he'll probably get stopped.
Did anybody see the workout videos of Rigondeaux there today? They had Rigondeaux looking like he was being like properly practicing body shots. And I'm telling you, the one thing you don't want to be getting hit by is, and they weren't like body shots from distance. They weren't body jabs. They were like when Loma try and gets on the inside and gets there, Rigondeaux's waiting for him with like really hard, crisp body shots. I wouldn't like Rigondeaux knocking him out with a body shot. Reasonable outcome.
Yeah, well, he's got to throw it, hasn't he? That's his problem. Yeah, it's all very well hitting.
Come on now. Whoever says that shit about Floyd Mayweather, people never say, "Oh, Floyd, you know, it just doesn't throw enough." You know, nobody ever says it. People say, "Oh, Floyd is a genius. He's able to restrict their outcome and make it the fight his own pace." And Bernard Hopkins, he is the greatest. He's such a boxing genius. He's able to get a guy who's a brawler and cut his output in half. When it comes to Rigo, it goes, "Oh, he's not able to throw very much, and he's very old." Even though fucking Hopkins was doing the same thing at 49.
Well, it's probably because Floyd and Hopkins were tested to a much greater level in the pros. You know, with Rigondeaux, there's still this element of unknown because he has one major win. Whereas with Floyd, he proved it time and time again against the elite of the sport. Whereas, you know, Rigondeaux, for me, really does have an overhyped resume, if we're getting into the resume conversation.
The only reason why we don't talk about Rigondeaux the same way we talk about Andre fucking Ward and Floyd and Hopkins is because he's Cuban. No other.
No, it's not, Tom. It's because he's had one notable fight. Don't look to blame everything on some sort of discrimination. It's just because Rigondeaux hasn't had the fights.
No. Why? Because he's Cuban. Are you telling me if an American fighter went and did such a display against an heir that his promoter would badmouth him and practically drop him after the fight? You're telling me if Floyd Mayweather did that in a fight against a top pound for pound guy, that he would be ditched and badmouthed and not be able to get fights? That he wouldn't be promoted in the right way? Maybe Rigondeaux doesn't do himself any favors, but no Cuban fighter gets the run of the same British or American fighters do. Absolutely, there's just no denying that. You know, they can't. A matchup can't be made. All these guys like Carl Frampton and Santa Cruz getting free passes for ducking Donaire, or not Donaire, but Rigondeaux. But you know, so he's an elite guy, and the main reason for me why he doesn't get the acclaim he deserves is because he's Cuban.
Interesting. Okay.
I mean, I'd say so what I would say is that you've got to give Rigondeaux a massive amount of respect for this, because he's going into against a really good fighter, a very feared fighter, probably one of the best fighters on the planet at the moment at his age, you know, and you wouldn't have seen, you know, Floyd take the obvious best fighter in the division on later on in his career. Same with Bernard Hopkins. Same with possibly Andre Ward, maybe. But then he soon got out of it as soon as the two tight Kovalev fights. So I think Tommy's right in that sense. He doesn't get the exposure, and he's being ducked by Frampton, and he's being ducked by Santa Cruz. So, you know, he's got a lot of balls stepping up, and he's making the effort and the move to get this fight and grab this fight by the throat. So I think you're right. There is a distinct possibility he could win. Very elite fighter, but I just think the odds are just a little bit stacked against him, and he will not come out with the victory. And I don't think it will be a judge's issue. I just think he'll genuinely get beaten up.
Yeah. Jet, any more comments on this one before we go on to the other card?
No, nothing more to add. I think everything's been covered.
Jet, can you talk us through the super featherweight card, mate?
Yeah, as far as I know, the card features Estrada versus Rungvisai for the WBC super flyweight title. Was it super featherweight? You said was it super fly?
Yeah, super featherweight. Is there not a card this week with Stephen Smith and those sort of guys?
Yeah, he's fighting Francisco Vargas, is it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And it's
Kevin
Salido
Farmer
versus
is
Roman. Salido versus Roman, I think.
Yeah, and Tevin Farmer, who a lot of people are very interested in.
Is he fighting for the vacant IBF title? Is he fighting for that?
I must admit, I don't know. He's fighting Kaneki Ogawa, who's fighters 1 to 12 on.
Yeah, that's for the that's for the IBF super featherweight title. So he's fighting for basically the vacant belt that was stripped from Gervonta Davis. So that's a potential fight that I think they'll look to make. But yeah, they're fairly decent card actually. You know, there's some good fights on there. Salido versus Roman, that'll be a bit of a war probably. Stephen Smith versus Vargas, that'll be a bit of a war. You know, Stephen Smith won't be in there to try and box. Let's put it that way. He'll be in there to try and Francisco Vargas will be there to take his head off, and same for Smith, I guess. But yeah, I'd probably pick Salido in that fight against Roman, and I'd probably, the Smith versus Vargas fight is a bit closer. I think Vargas has been in a lot of wars recently, and he has significant scar tissue around his face. So, I mean, if Stephen Smith can get in there and, try and do some good work on Francisco Vargas, he is slightly limited at times going forward. So, yeah, it might have a chance. If you push me, I'd probably say Vargas by decision. But Smith has got a half-decent chance here. Let's put it that way.
Is it for a vacant title, Jet?
I think it's for the WBC number 1. I'm not 100% sure. That's not confirmed. But Francisco Vargas is still rated highly. That was what I heard a few days ago. But I'm not 100% sure on that, mate.
Did he get knocked out last fight?
Francisco Vargas?
Yeah.
No, he lost to Miguel Cotto, who holds the WBC super featherweight title now. He lost by lopsided decision, I think it was.
Oh, okay. Okay. For some reason, I had it in my head that he'd been stopped, but
it may have been. Let me double check. Let me double check.
Yeah, I'm just trying to see if it's for a world title because
he did. Sorry, he did get stopped by KO in the 11th round, and he beat Bashar beat Mura in his next fight. Sorry, I was a bit confused there. Yeah,
no worries.
Yeah,
I'm just wondering if he could be on the way down, Vargas, and it could be good timing for Smith. But the bookmakers have Vargas as a substantial favourite, so quality will shine through against Smith.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, he has quite a lot of scar tissue and that sort of stuff. So yeah, I guess we'll see how bad it is on the night if Smith can expose anything. But we all know he's not the best operator. He's a European sort of fringe world level operator, Stephen Smith. So yeah, best of luck to him. Obviously, he's going to Vegas, so yeah, best of luck to him. Fingers crossed he can do the job and maybe bring a world title back to Britain and get some more world champions here again.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Jet, will you be watching the Box Nation Sports Bill at the Copper Box?
Yes, I will. Well, when I get back from work, I will definitely tune in and catch as many fights as I possibly can.
My kind of take on that bill, and I did a video on it yesterday, but in a nutshell, it's interesting fighters, uninteresting fights. Is that fair?
Yeah, I'd have to agree, mate. I don't see the fights or the majority of fights as competitive, if any are competitive. But the fighters themselves, I'd like to see how they look, especially James DeGale, Lee Selby. Those guys are obviously top guys in British boxing, and to see if they've regressed or improved or worked on different things, it would be very interesting to see. That's the main thing. That's the reason I'll be tuning in.
Yeah, I mean, despite people thinking that I'm an Eddie Hearn super fan, I signed up for Box Nation in its first month of existence and have paid consistently throughout that term. And, this month when I look at my £12 bill, Lomachenko, Rigondeaux, James DeGale, Lee Selby, Daniel Dubois, Anthony Yard, all on one night. Yeah, I can stomach that. I can stomach that. For me, not the most exciting in terms of fights, but I'm going to be honest and say that I'm very, very much looking forward to this night's boxing. And credit goes to Frank Warren and Box Nation for putting it on. Let's bring in Jay. Jay, what's your take on some of the other fights this weekend, either the Super Feather card that we were discussing there or the fights at the Copper Box?
I think the Box Nation card. It's an end of year cash money fight for Selby and for De Gale to get them out, get their faces seen, big profile up a little bit, because they've both got big fights next year potentially. Selby, Warrington is probably going to be nailed on, possibly Frampton. De Gale, the winner of the Super Series, could be Groves, could it be Eubank? So, or Smith. He's got some bits there. So it's almost. I said it the other week that James Gale hasn't fought for one. He needs to make the needs to get back out there. So that's all that is. Dubois, boom in 3 rounds. Anthony Yard's probably the best fight out of a lot of them. I think that's a bit of a step up for him now. Cheslocker. He's tough, really tough fighter, been in with some good people, and it'll be good to see how Yard, how he's progressed and if he's the real deal or not. Because I think even though Cheslocker's got some on his record, I mean, I'm looking through now. He's fought Callum Smith, Stieglitz, Tyron Zoiger, Paul Vath, Sakio Bika. He's fought some decent names, or better names than Yard's got. So it's the perfect fight at the perfect time for him. So I'm looking forward to that one. That's really going to be my highlight for me, to be honest. Although I always do love watching Lee Selby and I love watching James De Gale. But I'm watching it for them, not for their fights that they're in, if you know what I mean. Yeah,
totally agree. Yeah, to be honest, I hear what you're saying about Czlocker. It's sensible matchmaking. He's durable. He's been in with good level guys. For me, Czlocker is a punching bag. I look back and look at his fight against Callum Smith. I don't see Czlocker having anything to trouble Anthony Yard with.
I agree to a certain extent, but he's tough. He's really tough, and he's going to go rounds. He's got he's got no knockout. He's got no big punch himself, but he'll go rounds. And so whether Anthony Yard, if Anthony Yard wipes him out in 2-3 rounds, then that's a pretty big statement. If he takes him 12, then we're going to see how, what his gas tank's like, how he goes the rounds, how he takes the rounds, because we've not seen it.
I see it as a similar fight to when AJ fought Kevin Johnson. I don't think there's any suggestion of an upset whatsoever, but the question is, will he stop it? If so, how early?
Exactly. So it's a good fight. It's a good fight for him, and it's a good fight for us to judge. Every fighter has them. They have those level of fighters. He's stepping up a level now. So let's see what he can do, and let's see if he's got the minerals and the business to do it. I hope he does. I hope he is the real deal, because he's got a lot about him, a lot of charisma about him. Looks the part, big puncher. That's the sort of people we want in boxing, and it'll set him up nicely for 2016. Jeez, 18. God, I don't even know my year. I don't even know my years now. My life.
You going to have a look at the super featherweight, Stephen Smith Vargas or Tevin Farmers, someone a lot of people are talking about?
Yeah, I mean, it'll be one of those where I'll flick in and out of it, or I'll watch it on another day, on a Sunday afternoon when I'm hungover or something, just to make myself feel happy.
I hear you. Irish Tom, let's bring you back in. What else is going to be catching your eye this weekend other than the big one?
Yeah, no, that card, I think that's quite a good card. I was going to go to it, I'm not going now, but you were saying in your video before, like, the prices for everybody's like 1 to 40, 1 to 100 and all this. It's still, I don't know, it looks like it might be a decent card despite that. I think Czlocker fight, it's a decent step up fight. He's European fight for the light heavyweight title. You know, so that's a good step-up fight. I think he'll blow through him. But, you know, and Dorian Darch is going to get starched to be starched. But, like, the last card we were slagging beforehand, the Irish card, you know, what Frank did up in Belfast, that was a really good card, it turned out. So I wouldn't be surprised if this card might be better than it seems. But you know, it's a good weekend of boxing.
Yeah, I did say in my video, I'll give Frank the benefit of the doubt, and you never know with these kind of cards, there'll be something lurking that turns into a right fight. But it's hard to see it. I mean, is Dart's going to get the better of the Bois? Says Loco going to roll back the years and smash up Anthony Yard? Is Caleb Truax going to drag the Gale through hell and back? You know, it's hard to see it. Maybe the Selby fight. The guy's kind of unknown, I guess. But yeah, I'll certainly be tuning in, and all in all, it's a good night of boxing. I agree.
And has anybody been watching these BT Sports kind of was it Fighting Trade or whatever, these like half-hour shows with the different fighters?
I've heard good things. I haven't seen them.
Yeah, no, I watched the one on Lee Selby the other day. Steve Lillis, who I have no idea how that guy on television. You know, let's be honest. Steve Lillis should be driving a taxi. You know, maybe delivering. What would he be delivering? I think he would probably be maybe delivering. You know, like lamb corpses to a slaughterhouse, something like that. You know, that's Steve Lillis. Steve Lillis is now a man who should be on telly. But despite that, it was still pretty good.
I'm lost for words. I'm lost for words. Guys, that's probably a good note to end the podcast on for this week. It's been a good show. I've enjoyed it. We've moved up. We've covered a hell of a lot of ground in an hour 45, but we do come to the end of the agenda. Let me go around the panel and see if there's anything more to get out of you guys before we wrap it up for the night. Perhaps Irish Tom will even play us out if we ask him nicely. Perhaps I'll give you a minute to prepare, Tom. I don't know how broad your range is, but perhaps even a bit of Fairy Tale of New York, if that's in the locker on the keyboard.
The keyboard is being taken. It's in the kids' bedroom, so there's no
playing out. Okay. Well, I'll see if I can get you a recorder and some maracas or something for next week. But you never know. Jet, anything more for you to say, mate, before we call it a night?
No, I just wanted to say, War Irish. He's a legend.
War Irish. Good stuff.
War Jet.
War Jet. Jay, anything further for yourself to throw into the mix?
No, I'm going to go in as good due to what.
Jay, your signal's gone completely. You've turned into the king of the Daleks. But to be honest, now is the best time for that to happen.
Oh, I was actually saying I need to get out of here now because my Wi-Fi is shit, and I've done really well so far.
You've done very well. Thanks for the commitment to the cause, mate. Hopefully with the move of house, it will assist with the connection for future episodes. Irish Tom, anything further, pal?
Oh, I thought that Jay had moved house and he got a new Wi-Fi connection, but really what he meant is different McDonald's restaurant. We all know it, Jay. You're a tight fuck. The other thing is, does anybody know... Starbucks, there we go. Does anybody know what was Paul's juicy topic he was going to talk about at the end of last week's show and then disappeared on us?
Yeah, I kind of do. If I'm honest, it wasn't actually very juicy at all. It was sort of built up to be the biggest thing ever. It something. Okay, and I'm not going to get this bang on. Okay, it's not going to be bang on, but I'll give you the broad brushstrokes of it. It was something to do with fighters calling each other out on. I think it was like fighters calling each other out on Twitter or in interviews, and then the fight's actually not happening. But Paul, if you're watching or if you catch this up and I've got that wrong, please do let us know next week. But it was like an epic build-up, and I remember thinking that the topic wasn't quite as epic as the build-up suggested, I'm afraid.
Do you know what that reminds me of? You know, from Paul, you know, built that up so much as a juicy bit. I was doing some DIY there the other day, and we had a cat flap in our house, and I was bricking it up, stop mice coming in, and there was a mouse trap in the wall, in the cat flap, and it after getting caught probably about a year ago in the trap, and it had basically completely desiccated, so there was no juice or blood or anything left in, and when I touched it, it disintegrated. That's how little juice there was in Paul's topic.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Boxing Gossip Podcast. Many thanks for tuning in. Appreciate the loyal, regular subscribers. Appreciate the people who are new. Appreciate my fantastic panel. Well, some of them. And look forward next week to a united panel, all talking in harmony about how our joint pick of 5, Vasyl Lomachenko, beat Guillermo Rigondeaux. Thanks, guys. Have a good week, and we'll be back next Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday.
Slip side.
Au revoir.
Slip side.